Hi, and welcome to the Foreground Podcast. We are so excited for another episode brought to you, empowered by Lumbr Café. We got the goods somewhere here. Pete,
Well,
show them your drink. Show them your drink. If you're listening to this, you have to watch. There you go. I was going to say the drink, but you showed the
the
placemat.
drink. Sorry. Drink. Yep. Done.
Refreshing. Thank you. Spine Street and Sumner, please check it out. They are an amazing supporter of our podcast. And speaking of which, other supporters, shout out to Alani Networks Media, who film us, record us, make us look good,
Yeah, always
make us
good.
glow.
They were actually up with us at 5 a.m. this morning.
They were.
Recording
So
Spring Kings.
again, that's a big ask, but we are so grateful. So please check them out as well. Again, big supporters of our podcast. Speaking of which, of big supporter, Pete, you're one of the biggest supporters of all people, all things. How are you this morning?
Feeling pretty good. Grateful. Like this morning the sun was coming up. This was like probably like 5:15. Just waiting for the boys. We said 5 a.m.
I was there
You were there.
at 4:50.
Yeah, but no, it was great. Can't complain. It's been a while.
Yes.
I think, but we've been hectic, working real busy in the background, have had a lot of corporate workshops, a lot of programs in schools, and then also trying to balance all our high performance sport programs and be involved in that.
Yeah.
Which is a really good segue.
Ooh.
Real blessed, real lucky to have our guest speaker for today.
Yes.
Great man. Met him 5 years ago, and just really had like really good mutual respect. Well, I like to think I do. I'm sure it's reciprocated in somewhat capacity. But no, this man is very special to us, especially to Foreground Performance. We've had to earn our keep. We're always earning every day. It hasn't been given to us, but he's a massive supporter because of Javery as well. But he's the man, Russell Todd here, aka Rusty. He's currently now the director of rugby at IGS, and he does so much more. I know he's doing stuff in the boarding space, in cricket, in all these other sports, and he's just a man that actually does more than what's required of him, and that's what I love about him. Even though he's taken some late night calls from me as well over the time. But no, really like to welcome Rusty to the show, and I'm really excited because not just about his journey as, a professional in like administrator for sport and his coaching, but actually what he's doing like within, I guess, the research world and the corporate space around mental skills. And we'll dive deep in his master's research, which we are very excited. If I'm able, am I allowed to talk about that?
Yes.
Yes. I was like, correct. No disclaimers. But no, really excited. So, welcome, Rusty.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
How exciting. Rusty, where does that name come from?
I guess a combination of my first and last name, Russell Todd. Shortened it to Rusty by my mother when I was younger.
Oh, wow. That's simple.
My parents are Scottish too, so Russell actually means red-haired in Scottish, because I think they thought I was going to be ginger when I came out, and Rusty just stuck early, and I don't even have to introduce myself as Rusty anymore. People gravitate towards calling me Rusty very quickly, so
It's easier.
Yeah.
So much more like catchy as well.
Yeah.
It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. Do you forget that your name's Russell sometimes when people call you Russell and you're like, they must be talking to someone else?
Well, I've lived away from mum and dad for 12 years, so I've usually ever called it when I'm in trouble. So usually when my wife pulls Russell out, that's when I know I've got to go and hide somewhere.
Yeah.
Or like, if it's do you have a middle name?
Yeah, very regal. Charles.
Charles.
Yes. Yeah.
There we go. So I'm like, there's Russell Charles Todd.
Todd.
I would never talk like that.
Wow. That sounds very royal.
Oh, if the Charles is brought into the same Russell Charles, hide.
Yeah.
Go and listen.
So one of the things we're very passionate about the podcast is when we're speaking with our guests about anything about leadership, about working in high performance. And I was just having a giggle to myself as Peter was just explaining our start to the morning. We're up at 5 a.m. We're doing some sprint training. What can you speak to us about in the role that you have? Like, what is the importance of making small commitments like that, such as getting up early? Like, what is it about that really helps the people that you serve and train and coach? Like, what's the messaging for you when you hear that there are people that are getting up this early?
Well, part of it's role modeling, right? Like, if you're asking students or people within your program, I guess, to do certain things to a certain expectation. You've got to mirror that for an authenticity point of view.
Okay.
I guess the other side of that is to be committed as well. You know, I get up early so I can get up. I've got 2 young boys to get up, help my wife. As a team, we get them ready for the day ahead. We have, you know, nice moments together before we go off for our days, because they can be quite rare. And then, so it's a commitment, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that one of the benchmarks when I guess for those who are listening and probably unaware, like you sit in that high performance space in a high school, and that's very different to being at a club or like a well-established organization such as we've had the Queensland Firebirds coach in here. We've had the manager, the GM for Sunnybank Rugby. But for you, how does that work for you? Like, how does that messaging for you?
Well, I'd be careful to call it high performance, because they are still kids at the end of the day, right? It is performance. We're striving for performance outcomes, right? But I'd be careful to say high performance, because they're still teenage boys who are still developing and balancing a lot, you know. So our first 15 rugby boys, they've got 10 or 11 touch points a week through their gym, field, pool, stretch and game sessions. But then they've also got a full-time study load as well. They're students first. They've also they're young men who need to find time to be young men with their friends and families. Some of them will work part-time jobs as well. So, which is very unique, I guess, if you're talking high performance within, like, you know, the red space or something. That's their job. That's all they do. Right. Whereas our boys, the load's a lot bigger. There's more of a strain. So I'd always be careful to say high performance. But we are striving for performance outcomes on the field. So it's about maximizing the time we do have with them. So it's quality and not quantity necessarily as well.
Yeah, it's more like that. And had some really good conversations around like that student athlete kind of model and what you're trying to develop. How does that look? How have you managed that? You know, because it is performance outcomes, but then obviously if you had like an athlete, say Bob, you know, he's now struggling with education part of the thing. Is that the part that you struggle with, or that you have to not struggle with, but you have to really enforce as a student athlete?
Yeah, well, there's obviously certain expectations on our boys to be at a school like ours. There's the academic side of it, and that's not necessarily them being straight A students, but that's more your effort areas in the classroom, behaviour and so forth. Really simply put, if there's a student who's not ticking that box, then the privilege to participate in extracurricular sport goes away until it's fixed, fair to say. But with that comes a really strong messaging as well. Like, it's demanding excellence across all aspects of your life, not just on the rugby field in that hour and a half we get them in the afternoon. It's actually between 8:30 and 3:00. You've got to be on point as well, you know. Which, when you think holistically and longer term, that's the thing that will set someone up for life after school. You know, we have so many boys come into our space who are very aspirational and wanting to play professional footy, but the statistics show that very, very small percentage of those are going to achieve it. 1%. But if they can still come to our school and go away equipped as really well-rounded young men, they're going to be set up to achieve in the workforce as well as in life. So, yeah, it's really important.
I love that. And it's challenging because it is true. There's only a small percentage actually make it through. What's your messaging, or how do you go about your team? What's the messaging you give to students? But then I would say another layer as parents, because the parents are coming in going, this is the golden child, they are the next big whoever. How do you go about managing that tension sometimes, or the expectation that their son's going to be amazing and this and that?
I think clarity, conversation, I guess a kind of cornerstone of how I'm a very relational person. I like to build relationships, be able to open up conversations, and sometimes that can be a slow burn depending on the background of the kid. But if you can't establish that level of trust to be able to have a good open relationship, then you're going to struggle from the get-go with either the student or the families. I guess a lot of those conversations just need to be, as tough as it might be for them to hear, is just be as honest and as clear as possible. We're not saying it can't happen, but there is a process.
Yeah.
You know, you got to trust our process. Our process evidently works because we've got so many boys who have gone on to play good level rugby league, or actually other sports as well, from the school. So trust our process. It is a journey, and just being really careful, I guess, not to sell anyone a dream that doesn't exist, you know. So just be open and clear.
Yeah, that takes a lot of work of getting people to buy in, trust in that process. How has it been like for you being at IGS? And for those who are listening who don't know what IGS is, it's Ipswich Grammar School. How have you seen the building of that culture within the team and going, this is how we buy in? It's going to take time. Like, can you explain to us, like, is there a framework that you operate in terms of building that culture of buy-in and saying, this is the standard, we live by it. We don't buckle when pressures are on from other people telling us how we should run our program. Tell us about that cultural piece.
Yeah, so I think culture in our space is a really interesting conversation, right? If I sat here and asked all three of us what is good culture, we'd all probably give three different answers, right?
Yeah.
So culture is very transient, but it's got to be, in my belief, is driven by the athletes or the players, rather than it being this autocratic at the head of the program, this is what I want. So there is a framework that we use called the 5R leadership model.
Okay.
And it basically, we run it as a workshop, and we take it through this process whereby the first stage of this process is realizing why I am important, who I am, what is important to me on myself. Workshop wise, the boys will then go and write, you know, what's important to them. And it could be respect or pride or my heritage, church, whatever. And then part two of that is bringing it together as a we, right? So everyone gets to share what's important to them. And then you start looking at commonality. You know, if 7 or 8 of the boys are then talking about respect as being a cornerstone of their, you know, what's important to them, then that can become a key pillar for our group. The next stage of that is then bringing that to life. All right. So we give the boys the opportunity to go away with the key themes that have come out of those initial discussions, and then they can go and develop a totem or a trademark of sorts that represents them as a group. That's them. So they've bought into that already because that's been fully driven by the I and the we. They develop that, and then that becomes their, I guess for the coaches or the officials in that space, that's what we come back to. This is who this group wants to be. This is who they are. And then from there, you can then look at setting the standards as well. You know, what aligns with this totem or the values that we've agreed upon. And then you let the players decide what actually, this is what's important to us. These are the standards that align to that. Yeah. And then they're tasked with working out what the unacceptable version of that standard is, what the acceptable is, and then what the exceptional version of that standard is. So they've then agreed on their own core group of standards. And then for us as administrators, officials, coaches, we police that. We police their work. If they're not upholding their standards, that's where we come in. So whereas I think culture's transient, we work through this process. We work in a space, I guess, where half of our group turns over every year. Our year 12s move on, you get fresh people in. So I think good culture then comes from being able to grow and work each year to year through this process. And I think that you'll find the culture will change year to year, just generational changes or, you know, even interests or ages of the boys coming through the next stage of the program. So they can really make the culture their own from there. So
wow, I love that.
Yeah,
you said frame. Yeah, the 5 is it 5 R's?
5 R's. Yeah. It was developed by I believe Cliff Mallet from University of Queensland was part of that. But you can find that online.
Yeah.
And I've used that across a few different contexts: women's sevens, school-based. Did
you use it like when you were because previously? So Rusty was also at St. Peter's. Is it something that you did there as well?
That's where I first came across it. I was very fortunate to have, I guess we call it a critical friend or a coach mentor, who he's an international volleyball coach, His name's Mike, so I'll give a shout out to Mike if he is
Oh,
listening.
man,
Yeah, Mike,
he's
shout
a Mike,
out.
Spartan Mike, he's volleyball.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
would
I
like,
played
he's a volleyball.
That's
Dude.
my sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So he coached the New Zealand volleyball side.
Okay.
He his son went to St. Peter's, played rugby. By his own admission, he likes rugby, but not really a rugby guy. We first met. He was running the volleyball program at St. Peter's, and he asked, we just got into conversation one day and found some commonality there around coaching, and interest there. And so I engaged him as a critical friend, and he. What was brilliant about our interactions it was nothing to do with the technical or tactical of rugby.
Really?
Nothing to do with it. It was all around creating the environment, adapting the activities you're running to meet the needs of the group and so forth. So I've been very fortunate to have him as part of my journey as well. So mentorship is really strong there. Yeah.
Are you a big believer? And Mike's a great guy. I've had like some really good conversations. I know Javery has as well. Massive shout out to Javery if you're listening. But just the autonomy of like allowing players, like, I'm coaching at the moment, sevens, and everyone's like, oh, why don't you guys, where's this, like a kid asked me, like a young, is like, oh, how come we don't do passing? I was like, I expect you to do that before training. So then you're primed up, you're ready to do the passing drill. We don't have time. We got 45 to an hour on the field. Before that, you guys got 45 to an hour in the gym. So like, what's your take on that? Like on how you drive that in within, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm a massive supporter of autonomy, supportive coaching practice. But I think being in the space I've been in the last few years, I think it's a continuum. Yep. We work with boys who are under 11, so they're year 5 boys, right through to your first 15 boys who are under 18. It's really hard to be super autonomy to supportive with an under 11 boy who's potentially playing for the first time. So there's got to be a blend between the technical, tactical, and then the autonomy supportive side where they can go and make decisions and be free. And I think that needs to be scaffolded where it is a little bit more autocratic whilst the kids are younger, because they've got to learn the fundamentals and to play the game. But then as they grow, the coaching needs to grow with them and create these autonomy supportive spaces for them to develop the skills, I guess, or the understanding that's required to play the game. Yeah.
Awesome. Like, I think I always asked that the way. It was just interesting because I was like, I would love to see on like your view, because I know you look after even younger. I see Rusty out the field. I was like, damn, he's like got the kids in like awe. You sit down. I don't know. It's like you guys go over there. You go over there. You guys go with your coaches, and it's hard. But again, you got like it's a massive operation. You just see it when you're on the field and you see Rusty in the middle. Just control it. It is a skill. People take it for granted. Like you now it's probably like your bread and butter. But for some other people, they would be like,
Where did you learn that? Was that inspired by watching other coaches do something for your style of being able to have the masses but still be able to be controlled, like organized chaos? Like how has that worked for you, and where did you learn it, or is it something you learned over time in your role?
Yeah, definitely trial and error.
Okay.
yeah, do that.
No, that's good to hear.
Give us your worst error.
I'll tell you my worst error is when I first started coaching, and was 12 years ago now, and I'd probably it makes me cringe thinking how I used to coach back then. It was very autocratic, very hard, taskmaster. But then what happens is over the course of the season, players start to lose interest and their buy-in wanes. They're not enjoying it. So I had a season and a half where I was we need high standards. We need to drive to these standards, And then I had no players the year after, or I'd lost half the playing group. So that was a lesson.
You guys remember me? Yeah, I was still here.
So this is probably one of the first points of my career where I was looked at reflective practice for the first time unconsciously, and was like, I need to change something with how I'm approaching this. So this is when I started to look at research around current coaching practices, creating more supportive environments and so forth. And so I guess that's been my biggest journey to this point where I then became a really autonomy supportive coach. When I had the first 15 at St. Peter's, the boys worked through that 5R leadership model. So they designed their culture, their totems, they managed the behavior, the standards, the expectations. We gave them autonomy to the point around even training activities. We would present them a menu of what they wanted to work on that afternoon, provided them choice. And then through like a leadership group, you know, we would meet on a Monday morning and they would kind of talk about what they thought they wanted to do that week, what they wanted the game review to be about that week. And it was this really autonomy supportive environment that was done well. But you could very quickly lose control of a group because they might think this guy actually doesn't know anything. He's just leveraging off us.
He's just getting us to do all the work.
Yeah, so you've got to have some of the answers right up your sleeve. So that's where I feel very competent, is if they do have questions or their understanding is that I can answer those. And I think that keeps that level of authenticity to allow them to have a lot of autonomy, but also know that you are the guy steering, I guess, or facilitating it from the background.
I had that, like, as a player coming through, because I didn't make any state teams. Like, I played Med East, but then, like, I still played professional rugby. But, like, my journey was, I wish I had that, because I actually struggled with autonomy. I was like, oh, I'm so used to getting told what to do or where to be and that. But then I was really lucky. I had a really good mentor. He's still there now, Brandon Vaulu. So he actually took me under his wing. He was coming back from Japan. And he was here for 6 weeks. He's like, this is what you need to do. You need to learn how to do your own kicks. You need to learn that, but then I'll help you. But you got to be practiced. This is your craft now. And I really wish I had the autonomy as a player. And when I was, you know, that's really cool. I wish if you're a rugby coach and you're listening in, or a coach in general, I'd be like leaning into this potty right now, because there's some real dimes there, reflective practices, the 5 R's. Just to kind of really appreciate you sharing those with us. I'm like,
I'm like, that's why we have the podcast. We can go back and watch it. I think I love what Pete said, and it's so true with the autonomy with athletes. Given your multiple roles and multiple hats, as we had a chat offline, like, how do you go about encouraging those underneath you in your working relationships with people that have autonomy? Because obviously, in the 3 roles, you're always on the go. How do you then go, okay, team, you're adults. I don't want to speak to you like an athlete, but again, this is part of the leadership role, right? Yeah. So is it a similar process you work with athletes as well as your staff that you manage and look after?
So we've got 300 boys in the program. So it is virtually impossible for me to get around all of them. So actually developing staff, coaches, officials, managers, to be an extension of myself is crucial, because I can't reach every kid every afternoon of the week. So we run coach education workshops, which again reflect and try and tweak year to year. Autonomy supportive practices are very non-traditional, and a lot of traditional coaches who've coached for a long time, or let's say older heads, they struggle with the lack of rigor potentially attached to it. But I think a lot of those coaches see themselves as, I'm the coach, I should be the holder of all knowledge and I should pass it on to the boys. But actually, if you can put your ego to one side for a second and show some vulnerability and listen, a lot of the boys can, even from as young as 13, 12 years old, they can strategize and develop, you know, plans to overcome certain challenges themselves. And you might actually learn a thing or two off of those guys. That was, again, when I was with St. Peter's, the first 15 captain there, who's now gone on to play for the Brumbies, he would challenge me frequently, respectfully, but that helped me grow as well. Like, he was playing in the red system at the time and technically, tactically knew things probably more than I did, to be honest, at that time, but not shutting him down and pushing him to one side and that's my way or the highway. That actually allowed us to create a more positive environment for everyone, and including his ideas and his thoughts gave him ownership of the project as well, right? And that led to fantastic performance outcomes for us. We went from bottom to second in the space of a season with the same groups. So yeah, it's powerful. So I guess gone on a tangent there, but dialing back to your initial question.
Hey, that's why. We're here.
I've already got another question loaded. Just going, that's interesting.
Right, I was like this. My turn.
So coach education, mentorship. that comes with its own challenges as well, because you're putting a lot of faith in others. But I think the skill set that I need to have is to be relational, to be able to approach them and they can approach me, and I can challenge them and they can challenge me, all respectful, because we're all striving for a better outcome for our students, right?
Yeah.
So having that understanding, being able to show some vulnerability and share some experiences with those guys as well to build that connection and that relationship, I think definitely helps manage that.
That's so true. Pete and I are so big on mentors, and have said it in the past and in some of our podcasts, and we often share each other with each other names, even though they're unfamiliar to me or him, the names that I provide. Like, it's so important to have that wraparound person in your life that you could look towards and relatable. Who have been some of your mentors in, I don't know, maybe in sporting world or life? Like, is there anyone in particular that you would say has been significant in your journey of leadership or just being a person, like mentors?
Yeah, so I've already mentioned volleyball Mike. He's probably been coaching-wise, he's probably been my biggest mentor, who's really helped me to get outside of my comfort zone and grow within coaching practice. I guess my current, I say boss, our director of sport, Nigel, he is almost a bit of a fatherly figure in our sport office. What I really respect about him is he's got high standards, and he's, in some areas, are black and white for him, but he also is not afraid to give us autonomy within our roles as directors. He's not afraid for us to give him feedback that he needs to hear about why certain aspects of certain programs may not be that functional. And he's also very thoughtful. He listens around, the genuine feedback and takes it on board and looks to grow as well. So, and he's been in that role for, I think, 38 years. So,
I can definitely agree and concur that, Reevesy is that, he comes down hard on us if we have to be, and then outside of that, but very hey, how you going? Very stern, very, very fair. That's what I think about fair in his approach.
Yeah, agreed. And probably the last kind of mentor or role model, I guess, it's going to sound cliche, but is my dad.
Okay.
He is the most patient, calm, reflective person I've ever met. And trying to pick some skills off him growing up. He's very emotionally intelligent, and just stop, slow yourself down, listen to what people are saying to you, reflect on it. You don't have to give an answer straight away. Those kind of skills I got from him, or trying to adopt from him anyway. So he'd be another one that's been important in shaping me, I guess.
Have you ever thought that's probably a lot of the base of how you are as a person now because of dad?
No, not until now, I guess. No, you closed that question.
Because the more you were explaining, I'm like listening to you the last 20 minutes, I'm like, you exemplify. I don't know. Have you ever thought about man, I've learned a lot from my dad. Not that you are still learning, but you were talking about calm, reflective, and a lot of your answers and things you share, you are literally you're explaining your dad in a sense. Like, what is that like?
That's pretty cool because if that's how I'm coming across, then maybe I am more like him, which is what I strive to be. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, one thing that I loved and I picked up on that reflective piece, and again, it's one thing that we could all do with more in society, whether it be in sport or corporate or community. Just to sit back and be a bit more reflective. Don't react. Instead, just reflect. I know there's work you've been doing as well in this area of reflection, but more so mental skills. Like, tell us a bit about that and unpack a little bit about what you're studying or striving to study towards.
Yeah, so I guess going back to that autocratic coach who really struggled, and then reflecting that first time made me really realize, actually quite humbling, I don't know anything about coaching or people like I thought I did. I thought I knew it all. So it actually sent me on this educational journey, which I guess has been the last 8 years of my life. It's led me to now. So I'm currently studying Masters of Sports Coaching through the University of Queensland. Next year, I start my thesis. which is pretty nerve-wracking.
Good luck.
And
early.
And I'm 99.9% certain that I want to look at mental skills in adolescent boys. I guess why my driver? When I look at a lot of sport programs, I think, and not just in rugby, but across the board, the technical, tactical, physical development has gone through the roof, I think, in a lot of sports. You look at clubland now, there's great coaches coaching the juniors. It's not always just a dad anymore.
It's not the volunteer dad.
Yeah, not always. So the technical, tactical, physical development is happening. Then you've got this fourth pillar that I think often goes unspoken, which is the mental pillar. So I once heard a guest speaker talk, and he referred to mental skills as mental fitness.
I like that.
Yeah, it was really cool and changed my optics on, mental skills. He said, physical fitness, you work on the field or in the gym. Mental fitness should be the same thing. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful, because when you actually sit and think, we don't really do anything to develop ourselves mental skills wise. Why, I guess, so that's what sparks the intrigue into this space. Why adolescent boys? That's probably a more selfish one. I've been in that space for 5 or 6 years now. But I think the applications of it are broader than just rugby for me in my immediate context. There could be school-wide application for it. Mental skills in itself, I think, are not sport-specific skills. I think they're life-specific skills.
Say it again. Say it one more time. As a banger.
I shocked myself there.
Yeah. You're like doing things that I'm like this.
So mental skills is not just, you're saying it's not just for sport. It's applied to life.
Yeah,
skills.
100%. The ability to set goals for yourself, the ability to regulate emotion. You don't just get angry on a sports field. You get angry in all aspects of life, right? The ability, resilience as well. You've got to be resilient in all aspects. 2 young kids at home, like that challenges your resilience at times. So there's all these aspects of mental skills that, for me, it's important that we can equip teenage boys with the knowledge of some of these skills, and then, I guess, how to perform them, so that they can be not just better versions of themselves on the rugby field, but be equipped for life again after school.
Yeah. Have you had any surprises in that space of learning and educating yourself in mental skills or things that you've learned in that space of studying, going, wow, I never knew that before, or hey, it has a terminology, or something that has been helpful for you?
I guess what has been challenging first is a lot of the research struggles to quantify mental skills. It's all qualitative, or a lot of it is qualitative, around student A reported he felt better, student B reported he felt more confident, So an aspect of what I'm looking to try and do, and I could be opening up a can of worms for myself by doing so, is looking to try and how can we quantify mental skills development? Like, how can we quantify some growth in a student outside of the student A reported? Because like in the gym, like that's really easy metrics. Like if I lift 100 kilos yesterday and 110 today, that's growth, passing on a field. At the start of the season, I was hitting 5 out of 10. Now I'm hitting 8 out of 10. That's easily quantifiable growth. So, mental skills, if we can try and quantify that in a way to show meaningful growth, would be really cool, I think.
Man, I think about that and just thinking about the complexities of trying to measure that. Like, it's trying to put people in situations where it's like, okay, well, how do we improve that mental skill? Like, if you're watching as a coach, what's going through your mind? You're going, okay, let's do physical stuff. I can see the growth from A to B. Are you also thinking, okay, what's a mental skill element to this drill? Like, how do you go about processing that? Because in coaching, you're constantly adapting.
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest things in coaching. Like, how do you think and process as you're teaching someone a skill, going, okay, physical, cool. Now this is a mental part. Like, what does it look like for you?
There's a lot of moving parts to that question. As a coach, you're probably observing the tech-tac elements of it. Where I think you can build some mental skills in is the reflection of the activity. The use of questioning, rather than directive, do this, do that. Helping students to learn to review the activity themselves, giving them tools to be able to, hey, this worked really well in this drill. Why do you think that is? X, Y, Z. That's one way you can incorporate the mental skills aspect into that. Yeah. Another side of it as well is how you structure some of your activities potentially. So we use a scenarios-based game, 15 on 15 training. And this is an activity I developed with Volleyball Mike. And we basically played scenario tic-tac-toe. So we had your noughts and crosses board, 2 teams. Each zone, each square on the whiteboard had a different scenario. So it could be like a red zone exit challenge, a set piece challenge, there's 2 minutes left of the game. You're receiving the kickoff. You're up by 1. What do? You let the teams go and have 2 minutes to discuss it amongst themselves. So then they're developing some strategy on how they want to manage it that's not coach-led, player-led. And then you let the scenario unfold. Did they achieve it? If they did, they get to put their X on the board and try and get 3 in a row. Yeah. Or if they didn't achieve it, that's a hot review where coaches would listen and then jump in if required. If the boys were like, we really don't know why that didn't work, then a coach might choose to intervene and say, hey, have you thought about this? Or that as a alternative strategy. So there are ways you can incorporate it in, to some of your activities.
Yeah, because you would have done heaps with your coaching and even playing as well.
Like now you think about it, I was like, I'd love to probably chat more off air, but like, because I kind of create, like even last night, I created on purpose because I wanted to lead somewhere for me to have a conversation around and see if they actually picked up. I actually create it's like just creating chaos and just on purpose, seeing how the players. No, it was like, what? It was like, you're crazy. It's like 7v7, just chaotic. Like it's full on. If you don't lose it, like because they're so used to having team runs just run so smoothly. And I'm like, no, we're having 7v7. This is your team run. I want to see how you guys actually react. Anyways, players were kind of throwing each other under the bus and, what the heck, and I was like, guys, you guys do this every day. Like, it's not the first time we've done this, but what's happening? And I was like, well, we need positivity. Empower each other. Don't put each other down. And then I was like, go back. Didn't give them anything technical. And they actually spoke to each other, actually executed exactly what we were trying to achieve. They're like, just that. I don't know if that is a mental skill or if it is can be qualitative. Like, it'd be interesting to actually get that data and see what that looks like.
Yeah, well, the self-talk, is definitely a mental skill.
Yep.
Rather than them jumping on each other and, actually reinforcing that positivity and then strategic thinking. That's some self-talk, some emotional regulation, and then some goal setting for them, all in the one activity there that you've described. So,
do you give your feedback? When's the best when's the best time to give feedback to a player?
That's
I think this is
question.
When do you think the best time is like? Yeah, because you want to have time to reflect and stuff. So it'd be good to know.
I'm a fan of team coaching, so that there's 2 of you. One of you runs the activity, and the other one is spot coaching on the fly. I think that's really powerful because you can correct or reinforce positively in the moment. It's fresh in their minds. It's there and then, and you can have a really powerful conversation if you just pull a student out of an activity there and then drop him back in. So that's why I really like the team coaching model where there's 2 of you, because that then doesn't disrupt the activity. It continues going on around you whilst you're having that really important learning moment potentially. The other side of it is post-activity. I think we probably all guilty of waiting till the end of a session or the end of a game to say, hey, how did we go today? But actually, if we had a moment within the game, let's say it's in the middle of a game, there's an injury, a player's gone down for 60 seconds, someone's run out with the water, actually, can we facilitate a moment here to reflect on how that first 10 or 15 minutes of game has gone? What's working for, like strengths, weakness, opportunities? Like, what are we doing well and need to keep doing? What are we not doing well? What opportunities are we seeing in the other side?
Yeah.
Because that's coming at a time that you can actually influence the outcome of a game, right? Whereas if you don't have that moment and you wait until the end of the game, you've lost an opportunity. Yeah.
It just flies away. No,
Yeah.
You're like, I need to see. Oh, it happens like, yeah, I can definitely say that the best feedback I've gotten as an athlete was then and there. And then I was able to fix it. And I would always have like a thing around, my thing was don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Because then that's when the coach is gonna, that's when my contract's going, I think, you know, like I was like, that's the hardest part around
100%.
athlete life.
There's two things, and I want to come back to. One, it's just a reflection piece, and then another one is more of a selfish question for myself about mental skills. The first one is, it is crazy what you just said about, and I don't know if you notice this, but like in life in general, we don't pause halfway or partway through a chaotic period. Our normal default is to blast through it. Resilient, grit, whatever
Let's
it is.
hustle, let's grind.
Like that is, seriously, if you're listening to this, this is a light bulb moment, because so much of it in our society, we're pushing through. There's validation or from your peers, or there's a little badge on me going, I blasted through that. Like, just to say there's a moment, stop. Like, tell us about, like, I just think that was a bar in itself. Like,
Yeah. So I've probably got my wife to thank. Thank, really.
Bar, that's a bar.
That's
I've always been forward driven. Like, we accomplished this, what's next? We've accomplished this, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? Post this season just gone, I was already looking at, all right, we've got to organise the post-season review. We've got to tweak. I'd like to tweak X, Y, Z. Then I've got to do the meeting with the coaches. And she's like, hang on, can you just stop? You've been in the role for 3 years. You're unhappy with certain aspects that have happened this year. Great that you're thinking about it, but can you just stop and smell the roses and think what you've accomplished the last 3 years?
100. You guys, I just finished second overall in the rugby space. That hasn't happened in, that's a massive.
14 years, I think, 14, 15 years. That's our best
Outright
result.
second as well, not like shared. I think. And
But it's not just that. You know, I look after the whole
development,
program,
yeah,
not just the
development.
third. We've added 3 teams the last 3 years, so we're growing the game again. The results in our B's and C level teams are way higher than they have been for a long time. So she's like, you know, we've got more kids playing. The results are going better, not just for the A teams, but for all of the teams. I get some compliments from my counterparts around the style of rugby that we're playing. Like, we're playing proper rugby, or trying to, in even the younger age groups. So it's those kind of moments where she was telling me to just slow down. You've actually achieved a hell of a lot in the last 3 years. Enjoy that. And then look forwards. Yeah. So
what do you think that is? Like, I guess I'm speaking from a man's perspective. What is it that is it the fear of slowing down that we might miss the opportunity? Is it you just want to avoid the reflection piece of like how bad it's going, and you got a person, like, why do you think we don't have a tendency as men, and again, to stop and pause and celebrate? Like, what is that? Like, I see it's a common thing.
It is.
Yeah, it could just be down to men are more logical, right? In terms of the way they're wired, you know, like thinking about the next problem, solve the next problem. We've accomplished that. Whereas females are more emotional and more emotionally intuitive
Nurturing.
a lot of the time. Yeah. I'm talking in broad strokes generally, obviously, before I cop any hate.
Yeah. I was like this.
Yeah.
I was like, bar. Yeah. I'm here
In our comment section of the podcast, everyone's, you get all the wives saying, excuse me.
Big cancelled already. But,
I was like this. Logical? Yes.
But I think ultimately, though, like we can learn from each other. Like, I gave you an example about my wife slowing me down to think about it and take that in time to reflect. So I don't know whether that's part of the process.
I agree. Like, my wife's the exact same. Adding a bit of personal, like, I go. If you know me, ask anyone. I just up early. I go and I put my heart into everything, and then sometimes I come home like exhausted, like mentally exhausted. Yeah. That mental fitness, I need some help. But yeah, like she's the same. She's like, stop.
Yeah.
And she's actually now got me creating boundaries for that. Like, I know that 2:00 I'm winding down from business, from everything that we're running, and then if I'm not training, coach or anything, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right now is like. She knows I have nothing. By 4:00 I switch off and I put my phone away. That's why I don't reply back to anyone. Like seriously,
now it makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm like, why is he so slow to respond to my message? He's normally like on it straight away. He's always got the, when you send a text on iPhone and the speech bubble comes up straight away. And I've sent some stuff after 4. I'm like, there's no speech bubble. What's he doing? How is he not on his phone? He's always on his phone.
It's just the boundaries. Like Tuesday, Thursday, you'll get me because that's like I'm coaching. I'm still in the room. But like,
sorry for all those times I judged you. Confession. Save space.
Save space.
Save space.
But no, it's serious. Like I had to be real hard on that. Even like this afternoon, I know that 4:00, whatever I've missed out. Oh well. I was like, that's my issue to deal with on Monday or maybe on later in the night. Like there is no like, I can't jump on. I'll jump on an email like maybe 9 p.m. Yeah. And check it just in case there is something important. But it's just having those boundaries, and so I definitely agree with you about
it. Is really that is really important, the ability to have time to disconnect. And I will say I've not done it well at all until recently. Even something as simple as taking your work emails off your phone when you're away on holiday. So you can actually properly disconnect. We've enforced a no phones around the dinner table rule now, because otherwise my phone would go all evening, and it's not greater in family time. So teaching myself to slow down and enjoy those moments with, my boys are still young as well. Enjoy those moments, disconnect properly, and you're actually a better version of yourself for it post. When their emails are going all the time and it's just that constant nagging, or you're then thinking about, you shouldn't be, but you are thinking about and
then there's that emotional attachment, and then you're like, then you're having a going back,
But then you become distant from your family who need you in the moment. So it's a tough skill, but if you can,
a life skill.
It's something I've learnt just to do. Like it's not so much that, it's like and I've put it back on. Just going back to who I am as my identity piece. You go back to the 5 R's that you talk about. I think that the identity piece of who you are now. I'm not a rugby player anymore or athlete, even though I like to think I am sometimes. But I'm just
he
dad.
Still is an athlete.
I'm still dad and husband now. Like that's how my identity is. I identify myself as that I am a husband and father first and foremost, and everything else after. If those things aren't going good. Like I even had a reflection moment. This is me being personal, but a reflection moment this morning. I was like, I need to make sure that I have time with my wife tomorrow, like today, because last night I got home and my wife was trying to have a chat with me, but she knew I had an assignment. So I put in my assignment. I was up till 11:30 last night doing my assignment last minute. I'm doing my masters as well. All right, shout out to the master students. But and then now I'm thinking, see, man, this is a great counseling session for myself right now. But I'm thinking about I got to make sure that I do something. So I'm already in my head, 4:00, I throw my phone, don't know where it is. I now don't know. Sometimes I'm like, oh, where's my phone? And I can't find it. And I'm like, crap, I can't find my phone. So it's very important.
I think there's what you touched on, what both of you have mentioned is there's that let's make time, but then there's the being intentional in that time. Yeah. It's one thing to go phone away, but then you're still distracted. It's like, no, while you have that moment, be intentional about those moments. Because I think sometimes that can easily be a thing that takes over. Like your mind is still elsewhere, and your family and the people around you know. They just look at you, they're like, you're not here. Like you're here at the dining table, but you're not here.
Yeah, something Emma said was, you make time for it, and it hit home, and I was like, oh, I hate it. I cringed. I was like, you got me. It's like, you make time for everyone else. Why don't you make time for your family? And that's as soon as I was like, oh yeah, I gotta.
That's very humbling.
Yeah, I was like this. Yeah, you're right. And for me, I was like, I couldn't say anything back to her because I was like, you're so right. And we have a thing now, and something if you're listening. So me and my wife, if we have a disagreement, we just walk away. and we forget about what we're like. It's, you hear it on all these other like podcasts and all these like reels, but we actually practice it. We actually don't, if we know that we're getting hardened, we actually say, hey, let's talk later. Okay. Yeah. So it's like a safe space for us to go, well, I think let's just hang up. Or sometimes it goes, and like, sorry, I'm so sharing, but maybe we'll have like a real hardened conversation, but it's like, hey, let's have space. And then she realizes, or I realize, and then we then come back to base. It's really, so yeah. There's some mental skills for you guys. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's funny when you're saying that. One of my good friends got married the other week, and him and his now wife, their thing is to remind themselves that they're always on the same team. Whatever happens, we're on the same team. And that hit. I was like, wow. Yeah, so that just got, when you were telling that story there, yeah, just, we're on the same team here. We don't need to fight each other. You know, we all want the same outcomes. So. And
honestly, like the past 2 years has been awesome. Like, and that's where I kind of seen everything else grow as well. Like, we actually took time to be a family man, not try to be everything man. I think once you kind of have your core values, like, and it's something that we drive with athletes, right? It's like, just remember, rugby's not everything, or sports not everything. And I tell everyone, and I really love that. Like, you know, you're not just looking at like a rugby aspect. You're looking at like the whole life.
Yeah.
Of mental skills. Because to be honest, it's something that I'm like trying to really engrave, not force it onto my boys. You know, I've got 3 young boys, you know, it's a crazy household, especially Emma does a great job, but our kids coming out, and you're in every day with school. I'm only like glimpses like in the afternoon, mornings, and I guess in the detention center. But is it safe to say that kids aren't as aren't as resilient? You're finding those issues a lot more?
It's probably hard to quantify the answer to that. But what I do think is there is more of a conversation around mental health, well-being, that has not been present, definitely wasn't present when I was growing up. And probably you guys as well. It was just, you know, not talk about, the unspoken. Yeah. So I think that development leads to more conversations around, kids are less resilient these days and so forth. I don't know if they are any less resilient. I just think that because we think and talk about mental elements more, it feels more apparent to us right now. But I'm sure if we went back to our grandparents' generation, they would probably say that their kids were less resilient than they were because different times and whatnot. What I would challenge the resilience side of it is I think we are very too quick to just write kids off and say, he's unresilient. Well, what are we doing to develop that and build that resilience within him? You know, it's too easy for us to label a kid and not actually give them tools to overcome that, you know. So that's probably my...
This goes into my next question. Leading. I'm getting better at this. But the tools, you know, do you feel like the tools aren't... I feel like, and you guys can both jump in, but I feel like the tools are there, but the kids aren't, as you said, aren't being taught how to use them. Like we talk about them, there's a lot of awareness, a lot of resources.
We have a lot of access to information.
A lot of access, but I think because of the accessibility, the kids are like got too much. It's like Netflix or not like Disney or anything. So many options. I just turn it off now. I'm like, I do not have the capacity to choose what I want to watch. You know. So is there something like along the lines of that you both use?
There's a few elements to it. Yeah. I guess. One is you build resilience through experience. So what are the skills we can help the person reflect on what's just happened, why it's happened, how it's happened, then an option to goal set for them so that next time I'm in this situation, I can do X, Y, Z. And then in the moment, I guess, of being unresilient, some emotional regulation, whether it's breath work or whatever your trigger might be, being able to help someone develop like their reset process. You know, it could be different for everyone else, whether it's I'm feeling triggered in this moment and so I tap my right knee twice and that's my reset. So teaching them those skills to handle the moment, reflective practice to analyze that situation, and then some goal setting to how could I overcome this next time. Yeah.
Because kids are like sponges. They actually shocked me. My son shocked me. We did MMA like last Saturday. My son had someone in an arm bar. I'm like, I did not know you could do that. You know what I mean? Like, he got taught and he was able to pick it up real quick. Like kids, I feel like we actually underestimate, like, you know, what I'm hearing is we actually underestimate our kids, our youth coming through. Like because we make this massive assumption, because I see it a lot in the youth justice, child safety. We give kids structure. We give them the guidance, not hold their hand, but the guidance, the tools, and we'll mentor you. Yeah, you're going to stuff up because I stuffed up. I found that growing up, I actually had that. Right now, it's kind of like, and I don't know if we're to blame, but maybe we don't have, I wouldn't say us, but our generation isn't as forthcoming as what our fathers and our mothers did for us. Like I had an auntie and an uncle that I can think of right now that actually guided me. They didn't hold my hand. They said, you do this, you don't do it, you're going to get in trouble. You're like, oh, you know, Peter, what the heck is this? Yeah. Why isn't this done? I said, I did it. Yeah. You didn't do it properly. And then they showed me, this is how you do it. Oh, and that's the penny drops. I don't know if we have that.
Well, that's now, I guess, part of my study, right? Is how do we bring it to life? It's all easy saying, oh yeah, just breathe to manage the situation. And on a one-to-one that works, but we're talking about scaling this to initially 300 boys to teach them that skill set. So this year at school developed a mental skills workbook and trialed it with our 13 to 15 rugby players. And it was a week-by-week workbook that explained the mental skill that week. So it could be goal setting. Yeah. It gave them an example and then an activity or a couple of activities. So it was an engaging document. It wasn't just something they read and goes in the bin. Yeah. They worked through it week to week. Yeah. And each week was themed differently. So goal setting, imagery, emotional regulation, resilience, etc. And the whole thing was then wrapped up with this. You've now, across these activities, built your mental skills work kit, I guess, toolkit. So what is your reset when you're in moments of high emotion or you're struggling with, what are the goals that you've set yourself, etc. So we trialed that this year, and it had a lot bigger uptake. We didn't make it compulsory.
Opt-in.
Opt-in. And I was actually really overwhelmed with the amount of kids that did take part in it. And then the feedback I got from some of the parents who were just like, well, we've not seen this in any sport program before, which was one really cool for me because it means I'm moving into an area that's, exciting and new. But
my
also
head's like blowing up right now. That's why I'm like, I need to talk to you about that off air. Not because it's secrets. Secret society meeting.
Trademark it.
Yeah.
But then also like we're actually challenging invoking some thought around some really important life skills that the parents are really grateful because, we're parents. We fumble our way through raising our kids. We don't know anything. You're just hoping that you're getting it right.
Yeah, 100.
So I imagine all parents feel like that would be a reasonable thought, so that they actually know that there's someone there, I guess, helping their boys learn these important skills along the way. I guess my next part is how do I bring that to life even more, make it more engaging. And
partnerships.
Yeah.
Partnerships. We know some people.
Yeah. One of the things that really strikes me about what you're saying is the buy-in from the kids, but then also the parents. But if you were to add another layer, that's another buy-in then, or a runs on the board for the school, because then it becomes a program that has a reputation of going, hey, we really do work on students and their well-being as well as athletes. So in a sense, it's like in that corporate space, like the school becomes known as, it's not just a rugby program. Like, does that ever factor into the way that you coach and you create programs going, hey, yes, this is amazing. This is your life's body work and you want to do it, but it's in partnership with the school as well. Because the school, the admin are like, we love what Rusty is doing. Keep doing that, because that equates to more funding, more donors, more opportunities. Like, I don't know. Does that ever cross your mind, or is it just me?
No, but I'm not a very corporate thinker, to be fair. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I love my little space. So I don't necessarily think about the broader ecosystem of it all.
Okay.
What I do think about is, one, it's holistic. We're ticking developmentally all 4 pillars, physical, technical, tactical, and mental. I do think it's a point of difference that is marketable, I guess. If you're trying to split a program between another, but the fact that we actively do something in this space and are constantly trying to improve how we do it as well, I think that's a very unique selling point.
I can some of the kids that we've spoken about, like, I don't talk about their technical, I talk about how great of a human they are. Like, some of the kids, you'll get a bit of a plug, Declan O'Sullivan. He struggled. He was between first and seconds. When I approached Rex as Colts coach, I was like, this kid is a gun. He's like, oh, why? I was like, he shows up when everyone else doesn't show up, bro. He's like, sign him up. It wasn't a matter of like, he shows up. He got dropped. He'll be there in the gym working hard. He captained our Colts 1 program this year, and he's still got another year. He's just, when you say that, you're already doing it. It's like, yeah, definitely someone like him, I'm like a massive advocate. And that's one thing about IGS I love.
Yeah, so he potentially could have been the exception to the rule, right? Like, he is someone who, pre us trying to develop this mental skills space, is just maybe naturally a little bit more resilient than others, was willing to go to work and keep plugging away. There's a lot of kids I feel would shy away in that situation or try and disappear or disengage. So there are cases of boys who, I guess I say, wired differently or built differently. But I guess now I see my job as creating more Declan O'Sullivans. Like, you could use it as a great example, but if everyone had that kind of resilience, regulation, that drive, we're churning out awesome kids.
Like, the way he talks, everyone listens. And like, you wouldn't have thought that, when he was when he was in school, when we were coaching him. But now him seeing as a man, he's doing his apprenticeship as a chippy, doing the hard yards, comes to training, when you tell him to do something, he doesn't question it. He's like, hey, I feel like, if they have to adapt it, you adapt it. But he doesn't question. He's like, oh, yeah, sweet, let me do it. And then you can just tell he's struggling. He's like, hey, take it easy. He's like, okay. He's someone that you have to tell to kind of stop, which is hard. It's like, it's hard to manage that because he just wants to be great.
Yeah.
Have I met him?
I think you have. Yeah.
Maybe.
The captain of the Colts. Yeah, he was one of the captains.
I'm just trying to think that he's an exception to the rule. But if you were to give advice to someone who is an exception to the rule, like your everyday kid or even adult, what would be some of your top things in terms of that mental skill space that you can offer for people just to practice and know?
I'd say first and foremost is regulation, like emotional regulation, the ability to calm yourself down when things aren't going right. So that could be done through some breath work, for say, like your box breathing, 4x4. Yep. That is the first skill, because until you can regulate, you can't really think rationally too much about anything else. So I would say the regulation, the reflection is so important. And then the goal setting. And when I say goal setting, it doesn't necessarily mean this is what I want to achieve this year. It could be actually next time I'm in this situation, want to, I'd be able to overcome this. Yeah. That'd be probably the 3 low-hanging fruit you try and teach someone.
Yeah. Man, I like that.
Some of the stuff you're doing, like especially that, would be massive game changer for CEOs, for a lot of supervisors, a lot of team leaders. Because that's what we have discussions all the time with massive big corporates, and it's that stuff that you're talking about. So even though you're in your little ecosystem, it's actually something that you're piloting. I think could be
multiplied, like
scaled. Yeah.
The same way you're trying to multiply yourself amongst the staff. It's the same way these concepts are multiplied. It's very simple, low hanging fruit, but high context. We talk about high context. There's a reason. There's a purpose behind it. It's easy to obtain, but sometimes it's the hardest thing to actually apply.
Because like I don't think you're doing corporate things. Like, you know, we don't talk about high performance, but I feel like having pillars of high performance within any environment you go into is key, and you bring all of that. So like, you know, this is the 4 C's, like corporate, you actually tick.
Yeah.
Connection, you have a lot of connection. I know that you're relational. I have some great conversations. Yeah. You have great community around you, and that's something you're big. And culture, like you just create it. You know, everyone is, and it's hard. Your role is so hard because you're managing so many people's different ethics and ethos of backgrounds in coaching, but you're trying to make sure that they do IGS rugby, and that's hard to do. So you got to have the buy-in. So I just want to just keep doing what you're doing, bro. Because like as not just as like a fan, as like, you know, someone that's always cheering from the side, and someone that's, you know, I show up to IGS rugby not because, you know, I don't have to, but I want to. I actually like tell JB, he's like, move my schedule around so I can be there. He's like, yeah. He's like, what the heck? You know, like, you know, we actually want to be at IGS Ipswich Grammar as a whole, but obviously for me, I'm very involved with the rugby program. So you're doing a great work. 3 years. I appreciate it and celebrate, because it's bad money. When you came in, you were like, whoa. Like, especially in our juniors, like some guys didn't have no movement. Like, you know, kids are now, you know, we really focus on movement patterns, on the way they run, the mechanics. It's really cool.
There's a question I want to ask, and I think we're wrapping up now.
Yep.
But if you could leave one last thing for, I wouldn't say our audience, I'll probably ask for you to imagine you're standing in front of 300 kids.
Yep.
And this is like your farewell speech or whatever it is, and your legacy piece. What is it that you want these kids to know?
Oh, wow. There's so much you could say. I'm trying to think of something. It'd probably be around belief in yourself. The amount of times I think self-doubt has held me back along my journey. And until I adopted this mindset of just say yes, just go for it, back yourself. That's when I guess doors started opening for me, and just having that belief that I'm not an imposter. I know what I'm good at. I know what I need to work on. And so long as I'm open and honest and vulnerable, I will get to where I want to go. So I think that message would just be believe in yourself. You know, your background has raised you to be the person you are. You wouldn't be sat in front of me if you weren't already ticking boxes somewhere. The future's yours. Just belief. Yeah.
Wow.
And one thing, something that was said to me, and I think you know, someone, like, a lot of people look up to you and you don't realize it. And there's a lot of people cheering you on. And I'm one of those people. So, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Number 2.
Yeah.
I wish he was my coach.
Yeah, I got told today, this morning, just before coming out, by Barney Cathy, actually. She's a sports admin from Sunnybank. And she's like, I don't think you realize, because, yeah, and I just want to tell you, there's actually a lot of people that you probably don't realize. There's something that stuck with me. I was like, actually, yeah, thanks. And it's the same. You know, I see kids come up to you all the time, and they look up to you as a mentor, and you do create that. So everything you spoke about today, I can definitely agree, and I've seen it in action in real life.
I really appreciate you saying that. We don't often get told the good things, so do we? We're always looking for the improvements or so I do really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, good, bro. No, really appreciate you, man, and appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's us, man. So we used to do like a 3 clap. Ready?
3 claps.
3, 2, 1, yo.
Wait.
Wait. Go for the triple. Full of fun. Ready? 3, 2, 1. There we go. Sweet.
Thanks for listening to Foreground Podcast. Check us out on all your socials. And again, thank you to Lumbr Café here at Sumner Street and Alani Networks Media. Check out our next podcast coming out very soon. Thank you.
Naka.